You're listening to the Normal Network, where the time is 4:20, 24/7, 365.
And now live from Rolla J Studios in Portland, Oregon, it's A Different View with Iva Cunningham, Serra Frank, and Jennifer Alexander. And now, here's Iva.
Everybody, you're listening to A Different View on Normal Network. My name is Iva Cunningham. I'm here with my co-host Jennifer Alexander and Serra Frank. I'm so glad that you could join us again for our second show. Last week we had Cheryl Schumann on, and it was a great conversation. We talked a lot about unity and bringing women into the movement. If you haven't heard it, you can certainly download it. Tonight, I think we'd like to talk a little bit about prohibition in general. I don't know if it's happening in your city, but across the country, Occupy this city or that city is occurring. Sorry, I guess I'm on camera. Anyway, in Portland, we've had quite a large gathering of protesters working and trying to get different messages out and talk about all the things that they're irritated about. I hope you'll join the conversation at live.normal.org. And if you have anything to say, you can certainly join us on Facebook as well.
So we were going to talk about the movie that was on the OPB network this last week, the Prohibition movie, which was discussing the prohibition of alcohol, but we were all talking about the similarities between the prohibition of alcohol and the prohibition of marijuana, and a lot of the things that, as we're watching the show, we recognize in our own community as being the problem on right now. So you guys want to share a little bit about your impression of the prohibition?
The one thing that is just startling, I think if you watch all 3 episodes, you'll find that we're doing the exact same thing. We are committing the exact same insanity that we did before. It's shocking to me that we can never learn that we cannot legislate morality, and when we try to, we get the opposite results.
I think one of the other things to point out is something that a lot of people are saying recently, and we all have said at various times before, is how important the women are into this movement, because you see in the movie Prohibition with alcohol prohibition how fundamental women were to outlawing marijuana. Mm-hmm. And then as prohibition was enforced and they saw how much more damaging it was, women were, again, crucial in repealing the prohibition of alcohol. And there's the moms against, all the different drug programs that we had in the 80s. Moms have definitely been very crucial in keeping marijuana prohibited and illegal and looked down on as the devil weed. And I personally believe that women are going to be fundamental in making sure that when the prohibition of marijuana ends, that it ends in a similar way to the way we ended alcohol, with mm-hmm. our children's future in mind.
Well, I agree. I think, sorry, did you have something to say, Sarah? I think you're absolutely right. I think originally when, like most women, whether you have children or not, it's your instinct to protect children. And especially if you have them, it's your instinct to protect all children because you understand their vulnerability. But I think also, women are wise enough to see, oh, that's not working. It's not working anymore. And, their first thought is still to protect their children. It's still to find, this solution didn't work. So they're not unreasonable. We're not unreasonable enough to think that, this is as far as we can go with it. We just have to try this harder. Right. You know what I'm trying to say? And we need to continue to find better ways to protect our children.
Did you get to see the movie, Sarah?
I have not seen it yet.
It is on, I think it's either opb.org or pbs.org, where you can watch the whole thing online. So for viewers out there that didn't get to see it, definitely do watch it. It's enlightening. I could have cried during it. I was sitting there watching it going, how long before we can look back and see this exact same story being told for marijuana? Mm-hmm. And it was just amazing, that we don't recognize it in our society, that the similarities are so striking that we should see it immediately, and yet people broadly don't seem to recognize
I know, and
it.
I think one of the interesting things about the series is there was one woman that was interviewed in different pieces throughout, and one of her quotes was, what was so enticing about it is that everybody was on the hook. Everybody was on the hook, and we knew we were all breaking a law, and that's what was enticing. We weren't doing any harm. We were just breaking the law. And, I think that kind of idea is kind of the opposite of what's happening in the marijuana community. We want to be regulated. We want a law to follow.
Right.
This shouldn't be against the law.
Right. It shouldn't be against the law.
There should be no law regarding cannabis or being on the controlled substance list. I mean, that was based on a lie, and we, logically and looking at it, we need to repeal that law because it's wrong and based on a lie. And thousands of people will tell you so. I am living proof.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I think when I talk about changing the law, I talk about regulating it so that it's not so easily accessible to children. It's not so easily accessible in huge quantities so that we can still fuel the black market.
Right. Well, right now it's easier for, a 16-year-old to get a bag of weed and heroin and LSD and ecstasy and keep going than it is to get alcohol and cigarettes because they're not 18 yet.
We'll keep talking about this issue after this break. We'll see you in a minute.
So wasted, yeah. So wasted. Drop it down to the VIP, drinking what you want tonight. It's all on me. It's on me, baby. It's all the house. Throwing up in the bathroom stall. I feel so much and feel nothing at all. Whoa, whoa. So wasted. I'm in the middle of the road. Everybody's high. I got so wasted. Yeah.
I'm a lawyer.
I'm a journalist.
I'm a student.
I'm a teacher.
I'm a representative.
I have cancer.
The outdated laws of prohibition are more dangerous than the plant itself.
I lost my scholarship.
I was fired.
20 million arrests since 1965. This is getting ridiculous.
Our prisons are overcrowded with non-violent offenders.
We have the opportunity to change.
This is costing our country billions of dollars.
Making my family and I fight in a courtroom is difficult enough when I'm already fighting through chemotherapy.
There's no reason to be scared by tradition anymore.
We can stop this.
We can stop this.
We are the American people.
We can stop this.
And you have our support.
We are old,
young,
straight,
gay.
We're every race and nationality.
And we're not going to give up.
You can tax it.
You can regulate it.
Apply age restrictions.
You can create millions of new jobs.
We can save our economy.
President Obama?
It's time for legalization.
Legalization.
Yes.
We
can.
Well, my name is Annie. I'm about your daughter's age. I'm happy with my living, earning minimum wage. Last year I had a baby, loved him with all I got. But the bills, they became too much, so I moved a little pot. Now I'm an expatriate in my hometown, and I can't even vote to change the laws that put me down. I only pray that you fare better. I wear my marijuana leaf like a badge. It's my scarlet letter. And time goes slow here from behind these bars, but I'm not so far away that I can't hear the car.
Why don't you open us up? And welcome back to It's a Different View with Jennifer Alexander, Serra Frank, and Iva Cunningham. We're going to continue talking about Ken Burns' Prohibition. We hope you'll join the conversation at live.normal.org. We're a different view. And Jennifer, you had something else you wanted to say about the Prohibition show.
Well, yeah, I was just saying that the one thing that's so striking is how even people that were considered upright and law-abiding citizens found the prohibition law to be so open to violation that it was just okay to disrespect this law. And I think that we're seeing that same exact thing with marijuana. I mean, even if you talk to an officer and you're like talking about the laws, marijuana, this, that, and the other, it's just smoking a joint. It's no big deal. And everybody recognizes this, yet we strictly enforce it in such an insane and bad way for society. So it's that hypocrisy of the whole thing.
Well, you know, like I was saying before the break, the enticement of doing something kind of naughty, you know, and there's no hangover with marijuana. There's no puking or headache or taking time off or the shakes or withdrawal with marijuana. It's just, I feel relaxed and I'm enjoying myself, and there's nothing to pay. And so I guess I don't know where I was going with that thought, but I think...
No, that's right. There's nothing to pay. There's no cost to this crime. And then suddenly there is your whole life.
Right.
And
we'll make one up.
And the fact that for most of us, there's no price to this crime. And then for other people, it's cost them their future, their children, every dollar that they have, their freedom. How do we justify that? How is that okay?
It's not okay. It's not okay that some people are just sick enough to qualify in certain states. It's not okay.
Or that they've got enough money to pay a lawyer to get them out of going to jail while other people do. I mean, and it's well recognized that, you know, the poor and the minorities are the ones that are found to be in violation of these laws and lose so much. The people with a lot don't stand that same loss. I don't know. Paris Hilton was transporting it, and I don't know, there was something going on, and it was like she got a talking to. That wouldn't happen if it was you or me, you know. And
look at Lindsay Lohan,
right?
Lohan, whatever her name is.
So it's a discriminatory policy. It's not applied evenly. It's not.
Well, I think most people would clearly admit that systems set up for people who can afford it. You know, and that kind of brings me back to a point I was talking to John C. at 420. And we were talking about these fee changes and how Oregon has raised all their fee changes. And what's frustrating about that is that, you know, I had this argument today. Oh, there's too many people in the program. We all know why they did that. They wanted to set the program back. I understand that. But logically, if you look at it, it doesn't make any sense. Because, and I had this argument today, there was somebody saying, you know, oh, well, people who, you know, we didn't expect that many people to get it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Sure you did. Sure you did. How many people are diagnosed with cancer every year? You expected that. And I said, but, you know, whether or not you believe that that person is sick enough or looks, you know, their pain is justifiable enough for them to get medical marijuana, the issue here that everybody wants to skirt around is that this is some form of regulation. Small, not enough, but it should be enough for us to take notice to say, wait a minute, people are willing to jump through some hoops to obey the law.
Yeah, they don't want to be criminals.
They don't want to be criminals. Right. And it's not that easy, is it, to qualify for a card?
No, it's money, mainly, is the biggest hurdle there.
Yeah.
Doctors' visits, especially if you're not very happy with doctors. And, you know, it's been a very long time since you've seen a doctor.
Right.
And you've got to have a doctor's visit within the last 12 months.
Lots of people don't have insurance.
Yeah, and they can't just go get a doctor's visit because they don't have insurance or any money. And then the fees themselves, you know, that's before they went up.
So they've essentially they've priced them out of regulation. They've priced people who really want to be regulated have a lot to lose.
I was going to say, for those that don't know, here in Oregon, just recently, the Oregon Health Authority, at the direction of the Oregon legislature, doubled the medical marijuana program fees from $100 to $200. We used to have a low income rate, and that has there's a couple of different tiers to it, but for the most part, they went from double or quadruple the fees, and then added additional charges. I think it's $100 if you lose your card, or $50. I can't remember which.
$100, I believe it is.
And then it was $50 to change your grow site or to add a grower. So I mean, it's confusing and expensive for you to get permission by the state, but not the feds,
right,
to maybe require marijuana. There's a problem with that. I mean, we haven't even gotten our medicine yet, and we had to pay, $400.
So people are going, well, wait a minute, I'm just going to go to the black market.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
cheaper, and I
Cheaper.
don't have to hassle. I don't have to hassle.
They're going to go there because, they need their medicine right now,
Right.
not after they pay all these fees and get a card. They need it right now, and they
Right.
need to spend that money on it right now.
Right.
Right.
I met a man on the train a while back, and I love to tell this story because it's so telling. You hear our legislatures often say, well, if this is for those cancer patients, why aren't there more of them on it? And my simple answer is, well, they died first. They're not able to be around long enough. But the other portion of them, they are using marijuana. They're getting it from their black market buddy down the street because you don't have time to jump through all those hoops to start taking your medicine. And the man I met on the train told me that, he goes, oh, I'll definitely, sign to support legalization. Marijuana saved my life. And I said, really? I said, yeah. He says, yeah. He said that he had cancer. And I said, oh, well, this comes up all the time. How did that work for you? How were you able to, get through the process and get the cannabis in time? He goes, well, I didn't sign up for the program. And he kind of laughed at me like, duh.
Yeah.
He went and got it from his friend from the black market, and it saved his life. And why should a cancer patient have to do that? Because we've put so many hoops in their way that
they shouldn't have to do it. They shouldn't have to do it at all. It seems silly to me that because it doesn't really provide them a whole lot. Now, as a clinic owner, people are probably going, "What? That doesn't make any sense." I've always said that the sickest should belong in the front of the line. However,
not on the front lines.
No,
at the
not
front
on the
of the line.
front of the lines. I'm so cliche challenged. You'll tweet that later, I'm sure. I think so. We've lined, the appropriate people are getting, or should be getting, taken care of first. However, even for that, it doesn't go far enough because we're still sending them out to the black market. Now we've got a hungry crowd that we're just going to say, oh, go ahead. But, it's not just Oregon that is, setting things up like this. It's also other states that have medical marijuana programs and other states that are trying to get medical marijuana programs. Unless we take a look at the whole picture, like the supply, the need, we're not going to get very far in medical marijuana. We're never going to get enough medical marijuana. Medical marijuana means somebody's not going to be sick enough to qualify.
Right.
And it is both recreation and it is both in medicine. And I get really frustrated when people, they want to just dismiss the sick because there's something wrong with recreating and using cannabis to recreate. And
there's this idea that medicine should be very
should make
painful and unpleasant. If you enjoy your medicine, there's something wrong, and it's kind of like the
that's not true. There's lots of people who enjoy oxycodone
I was
right
gonna
now.
say it's kind of like the Puritan view of like that you should take it with like a big spoonful of this, and
take the
it should
sugar
taste
makes the medicine go
worst,
down.
That's like you just said with the oxycodone and stuff. Our society doesn't actually believe that, but we pretend like we do when it comes to marijuana. Like, you shouldn't like your medicine. That's bad.
Right.
And then they run off to go party with their Ambien.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
or alcohol, yeah.
I was going to just cut in and say that we're here doing a different view. It's Iva Cunningham, Sarah Frank, and Jennifer Alexander. Right now we've been talking about Ken Burns' Prohibition and kind of our impressions of it. We've obviously strayed a little bit from the show, but that's okay because we're just talking about how it relates to marijuana. I did want to ask you, Sarah, to tell us a little bit about the differences that you've noticed coming from Idaho, where they're working on medical marijuana, and here in Oregon, where we already have medical marijuana. Like, what kind of things stand out to you in considering, ending prohibition? Anything in particular?
Well, the biggest thing that we noticed when we got here is that it was a little bit cheaper. Black market wise, I obviously had to go to the black market. I didn't have a card, and coming from the black market in Idaho, it's easy to transition. But it's just a little bit cheaper. And you would think with a medical state, even in the dispensaries, it's still the same price as the streets.
Yeah.
And you'd think that with the demand for it, the supply would be greater and the cost would go down. And it really was not that much of a difference. And, my pocketbook noticed.
Right.
I think the other thing I noticed is, I think the movement has kind of lost the fire that we've got going on in Idaho because we're new.
Yeah.
You know, or this is all new to us, and it's all very, let's go, let's get this done, and I'd like to find out why and find out how that fire kind of goes away, because, you know, of course I'm worried that'll happen in Idaho, but at the same time I want to kind of bring it back here and get us all united and get us all just going. And I think like Occupy Portland would be a really great way to start, you know, token that fires.
Absolutely.
When I was in Idaho, I have to say I was very inspired. I was, you know, we've been here about 7 years, and I think that for me it was really inspiring to see young people out there, you know, going back out to the fight in such adversity. I mean, you still went out and you put your heart out there. I think I was very inspired, and there was no cannabis anywhere.
Yeah,
None.
Definitely.
No, we can't. You know, our meetings, like I was writing up the meeting, we have Portland Moms for Marijuana has started here just recently, and I was writing up the meeting, and it, you know, I had to put in the no medibles for our potluck, and not in Idaho because that's just obvious.
It's taken for granted. You're listening to A Different View. We'll be right back.
Well, I beg, stole, and I borrow. Yeah, that's why I'm easy. Alright, yeah, easy like Sunday morning. I'm easy. Alright, yeah, easy like Sunday morning. Chains on me. Well, I paid my dues to make it. Everybody wants me to be what they want me to be. I'm not happy when I try to fake it.
Normal Show Live reminds you to never consent to a search. If you're holding and you consent, in most states you will be arrested immediately and you will go to jail. If you don't consent to a search, police may try to intimidate you by threatening to bring in drug-sniffing dogs or try to fool you by saying things will go easier if you consent. Yeah, easier for them, sure. Stand your ground, refuse the search, and ask the officer if you're free to go. If they still detain you and eventually find your contraband, you'll be no more busted than if you had allowed the search. But by refusing the search, your attorney has a chance to win your acquittal before a judge. If you consent to the search, your attorney's hands are tied. You can find a list of Normal Legal Committee attorneys specializing in marijuana cases by visiting the Find a Lawyer link at normal.org.
A ganja baby. Yeah, 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 yeah. I am a ganja baby, a ganja lady. I love to burn, 'cause I love to learn. The weed opens up my mind, and I ain't blind. It's not a crime to blaze the marijuana. Blaze up the chalwa, the sensimilia. Blaze up the chalice, soon me be like ganja palace in a wonderland like the one Alice love the cannabis. Why? I am a ganja baby. Sometime me friend them call me ganja lady. Smoking zest, it's no buts, no maybe. Blazing every day, every day. Yeah. I am a ganja baby. Baby, friend them call me ganja lady. Lady. cause we don't care. We have no fear to blaze the marijuana. Pop the child, we're blaze the sentimental, yeah. Blaze up the kiki, love when she fat and sticky. She pretty and me love her straight to nitty gritty itty. I am a ganja baby. Sometime my friend them call me ganja lady. Smoking, baby. Blazing every day to me. Every day. Ganja baby. Ganja lady. It's no buts, no maybe. Blazing every day to me ganja crazy. Success is the best in the north, south, the east and the west. Relieve the stress and no other thing can test. Give me the herb, it's good for the nerve. Helps me to observe round the corner and curve. I see Babylon try come fi mash it down. Me ganja business, them wa crash it down. Sense this, sense that, and me hash it down. For this one me have to get ganja crown, not play around.
We're back with a different view. Sarah, you were just saying that you had thought of some other similarities or differences, between the Idaho and Oregon environment related to having medical marijuana here in Oregon and not having medical marijuana yet there in Idaho.
Just the ability to choose. The ability to choose which strain and how much, and, not have to buy an eighth or not have to only get that kind because that's the only kind that dealer has. Sometimes it's indica, sometimes it's sativa, sometimes it's ruderalis and sticks and stems and seeds. And
yes.
Yeah, or just trimmings sometimes, and they charge you the same $50, $60, $70 prices. And I like being able to go in and choose that, the strain that helps pick me up and
just
get
to
me
have
going
that decision.
and take away my pain that's going to be different than the cancer patient over there, you know.
I've quickly become spoiled by that here in Oregon. Coming from Indiana, you never had a choice. It was you never asked somebody, what strain is this? They would have laughed at you. It's the kind that comes in a bag.
And the kind you get.
And the strains are correct.
Right.
The names that they give you are actually what it is, because, in Idaho, I think they make it up.
And some of them might be funny, I mean, but when you look at regular medicine, they are too. So I don't find it as offensive. I kind of like to know what I'm getting, even if it is a silly name that you might giggle while you say. It's great to know what it is, what it compares to, what kind of effect it's going to have on
Idaho,
you before you smoke it.
I'd get something from the dealer, and I would smoke it, and it would be exactly what I needed, and I'd feel great, and I'd start getting stuff done, and I'd get chores done, and I'd be able to do all sorts of stuff and go run and play and do stuff, and then I'd go to re-up and get my new bag, and it would be something else.
Right.
So then suddenly I'm sleeping because it's one that helps you sleep. Or
right.
Right. Yeah, it is kind of nice to be able to go into a place that, they're checking ID, so I don't have to be, tripped out that there might be some, somebody in there that shouldn't be in there, like a minor. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I think anybody who's an adult, consenting adult, should be in there. So that makes me feel good. Two, there's security. It's bright.
There's light.
I get to
I was
go
going to say
into
there's
a
light.
store.
It's not some dark pocket.
I get to go in the store. I'm not sitting out front of the store waiting for some dude to walk up to my car.
I was going to say, so quickly we
in.
forget what it's like to do the dark alley drug deal. I mean, I remember going to some really shady people's houses at times, meeting some crazy people, and you're like, well, I'm really glad to go home now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and sometimes, you're watching. There was one instance I was talking about with other people the other day, and it's just remembering driving into like the ghettoiest area, to pick up marijuana, and some little kid running it out to our car, and just like that's the underground.
And you feel like you're contributing to that. Well, you are
contributing to that.
Well,
so it's so much nicer.
That's my point about like the Moms for Marijuana. It's like, what are we doing here? This is not what we want. This is what we know.
Right now we have no other choice.
And I know some people complain about the various dispensary operations and everything out there, and the prices and all. And there's a lot of places that I don't go to because I'll admit it, I'm cheap. I am cheap. but there's some places that I will go and check it out and see what they've got. And I'm so excited for the future of what a legal marijuana market's going to be like, because while I may not want to shop there right now, I can't wait until the day when the prices come down so that they're in my range and that I am interested in being there. I love walking in and them welcoming you as a customer,
right?
That's not
it's
a drug deal. That's a sale, and to be able to look and take your time, ask questions, and make your decision, and you are the consumer making a choice,
right?
As opposed to
even right now here, it's not that. We're trying to help each other. We're having to make our own, underground system that's under the federal level, and state law is not.
And that's what I was going to say is that we're definitely leaning that way.
Yes.
Now, this I don't know if this is too much to go into before we go to break here in a few minutes, but to go to some of what we were talking about before the show, recently in Oregon, there was been like 8 raids in southern Oregon by the federal government of legal Oregon medical marijuana gardens. And the reason is because since they're legal under Oregon law, they call the feds in.
Right.
They're illegal under the federal law no matter what, and they're prosecuting in that way. In California, almost simultaneously, the 4 district attorneys down there issue a letter to all of the California dispensaries that have been around for 15 years now, operating almost with approval, and they're being told they've got 45 days to shut down, and we're seeing it with the ATF memo to gun dealers. This goes on and on. I mean, the feds are definitely putting pressure on to discourage this market that we're all looking at and going, yes, this.
But don't you think those are more
fear
tactics, though?
Absolutely.
I mean, this is the pushback that we all expected, but I hope that everybody in the community sees that for what it is. It is a fear tactic to push us back and to push us down. And I think that's why, what you were saying earlier about going out to Occupy Portland is like, don't be afraid. This is them showing us their concern, that they have something to lose. Their stake in this fight is something, that they might lose. And just like a lot of people, even in the marijuana community, we're just as guilty. We don't want to lose our stake in the sand. We don't want to lose, what we've gained either. And this pushback from law enforcement or the federal government, the DEA, is them going, wait a minute, it wasn't that long ago the DEA was almost completely broken, defunct, and they don't want that to happen again. They have a stake in this fight. It benefits them to keep drugs illegal.
From it.
Absolutely, they profit from it.
Right. Well, and actually, and this is another thing that I like to make sure that people realize and keep at the forefront is that right now Eric Holder is being questioned at the least, and looked at very seriously for his role in the Fast and the Furious gun walking, which is giving the cartels in Mexico guns from, the United States. Meanwhile, they're trying to put the direction onto these horrible marijuana users. Look, we're doing our job. We're busting them. Well, he's running guns across to where these thousands of Mexicans are dying because of our...
Everyone's on
and it's not the pot that's causing it. It's the person who's profiting from marijuana being illegal that's doing it. And I think it's distraction. I think that they need to hurry up and make the drug war seem like a good idea. So parents are screaming for it. Drug counselors, police, everybody needs to be screaming for it again to ensure that it doesn't lose its validity right now.
Right. And I think, we'll talk more about this when we come back from the break, but, as long as we have prohibition, we're always going to have corruption. As long as we have prohibition, we're always going to have crime and greed. And if we can't keep it out of our prisons, what makes us think we can keep it off the streets and away from our children? We'll be back in a few minutes. But you're listening to It's Different View.
Every night and every day now, never meaning what they say. No, they don't. And they don't say what they mean.
La-di-da, la-di-da. La-di-da, la-di-da. What I'm talking about is you and you and you and me. Oh yeah. And these games that people play. You know, people come walking right on up to you.
Have you considered medical marijuana? Double-blind, peer-reviewed studies have found cannabinoid therapies to be successful in treating the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, brain cancers, chronic pain, diabetes mellitus, dystonia, fibromyalgia, GI disorders, hepatitis C, HIV/AIDS, hypertension, incontinence, MRSA, multiple sclerosis, osteoporosis, pruritus, rheumatoid arthritis, sleep apnea, and Tourette's syndrome, as well as anecdotal evidence suggesting relief from anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress, plus reduction in the need for narcotic painkillers. Side effects of medical marijuana can include euphoria, relaxation, anxiety, panic reactions, paranoia, tachycardia, dry eyes, dry mouth, concentration and reaction time impairment, appetite increase, and in 37 states, arrest and incarceration. But medical marijuana is non-toxic and cannot cause overdose. Medical marijuana. It's not for everyone, but ask your doctor if medical marijuana may be right for you.
Hey, the blues got me down, and I cannot seem to get away from negativity swirling around. Sun, why won't you shine on me? It's as if you are avoiding me. Knew today was gonna be something. Once the alarm rang, it was gonna be a doozy. But I choose to be optimistic and keep my head lifted. That's what I'm gonna do.
What would you do if you woke one good morning and discovered nothing's going your way? Nothing's going your way. Just one of them days. About having one of them days. Yeah, yeah. Oh. Now we all heard this song before. I bought the coffee, not tasting the same way it did the day before. Just like a bad dream, when you can hear what you can see, while you struggle to take care of your family. Oh. When it's hard to keep up, I'm steady, gon' keep on praying and being thankful for another day that I can see my babies grow. Though I ain't perfect, no, get the chance to let you know that we all can grow. Cause I know about if you woke one good morning and discover I know about waking up and knowing nothing's going right. Yeah. Just one of them days. About having one of them days. What would you do? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And discover when I wake up and find out nothing's going right. Them days. I know about every one of them days. Yeah. Just one of them days. It's just one of them days where I'm feeling low. So many things, so many places that I have to see and have to go. I'm trying to keep it moving, trying to get ahead, but it only seems that roadblocks seem to pop up instead. Every season there's a bad time. Even you may have to shed a tear or two. Hold on, into the sky. What would you do if you woke one good morning and discovered nothing's going your way? Discover things ain't going your way. Just
And we're coming back to A Different View with Sarah Frank, which is myself, and Jennifer Alexander and Iva Cunningham. And we're talking about the differences between a non-medical state and a medical state. And one of the biggest things that we noticed is that in Idaho, we're fighting for medical use. And people come at us with, if we do medical, if we make it legal for medical, it's going to end up on our streets. And like you were saying, if we can't keep it out of our prisons, how can we expect to keep it off our streets? And we can't. It's already there.
Right. Yeah, you're really good about making the matter-of-fact statements. And it's right. You're absolutely right. It's already there.
I already get it.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to be experienced in being an adult, but I'm also young enough to remember what it was like to be a minor, to be 16, and how easy it was. I had dealers with, I had 5 dealers. I lived in suburbia, and I had 5 dealers within 5 blocks of me. I could go get it anywhere, and I was 13.
When I was in middle school and high school back in like the early 90s, basically, I never did use marijuana. I believed the drug war. I never used it until I was over 18. I had graduated high school. And I remember in middle school, like I could count in 6th grade plenty of people in my class that I could have gotten marijuana from at any time. And I wasn't even into it. It was just that everywhere.
We mentioned previously about how, you make it forbidden and you outlaw it and put this big stigma around it and say, no, don't do that. Our kids are going to go, what is it?
What is it?
I want to try that.
Well, right. and that's the lie right there. That's the lie, and that's what I think all of us could probably share in this personal experience. Is when my first exposure to marijuana, I was 11 years old. I didn't know what it was, never heard of it, didn't have a clue. I was 11, but I didn't see anything awful happening. In fact, those guys were more fun than the people that were drinking alcohol because I didn't know what was up with those guys, and I just knew they progressively got worse. But people who were stoned, it was like smoking cigarettes. That was my first introduction. Then it was later that I realized, oh no, that's supposed to be the devil weed. But if you try it and it doesn't have that, have that experience, you're thinking your next conclusion as a kid, because we leap that far, is everything must be.
It was all a
that
lie.
Yes,
it was all a lie.
It's all a lie. So I'm going to go try heroin.
So heroin, cocaine, meth, it must all just be as benign as marijuana is.
They just don't want me to do it because I'm a kid and they're always telling me what to do.
Right. And today what we have is the Google. And kids, if I always, friends always ask me, well, how do I talk to so and so? Well, I don't have kids. I have lots of nieces and nephews, and I have a lot of conversations with them, and I'm pretty open about what I do. I'm not. I certainly don't want them to consume cannabis until they're much older. I don't want them to take anything until they're older, but unless it's going to save their life.
Kids understand that there's things that are for adults that aren't for kids.
Right, coffee.
Alcohol.
I understood that. Same soda.
Coca-Cola.
I was going to say, it doesn't even have to be anything that's forbidden. It just could be Mom's Fruit Loops or something.
Yeah,
those aren't for you. Mom likes to snack on those. I don't
there were
eat
a lot of
Fruit Loops,
things my mom had. I let her have.
I was going to say, I drink iced tea in my house, and I don't really have a problem with my kids drinking iced tea for the most part. I don't think it's that good because it's got caffeine and stuff in it, but I don't really think they need to be drinking it, but it's also my tea.
Right, but we also...
so they don't touch that. It doesn't have to be bad.
But we all know there are, and even growing up, we knew there were some things for adults and some things for kids.
Right.
We just accepted that, and that's okay.
And it teaches kids respect.
Right, exactly. But now they can go and Google anything. So if you're going to tell them there's an Easter bunny that poops eggs, they're going to Google that. And they're going to find out that your mom and dad are full of crap, which means Santa Claus isn't real either.
The Easter bunny poops eggs.
Is that what they do?
Did somebody really teach you that, Iva?
Have you not been watching the commercial?
I was going to say, I don't think I learned that one.
That's
another entry for a cliche challenged wife.
Oh no, but actually that goes back to what we were saying. I think it was before the break about the respect for laws. Okay, so when we're looking around and we're seeing everybody so openly violating the laws like we do with marijuana now or with alcohol prohibition, back in those days, and everybody thinks that it's no big deal. You learn to distrust what you're told. Then when you try it firsthand, your experience teaches you to distrust what you've told. And then we expect to have some semblance of order in the midst of all of this. And it's obvious that it's never going to lead there. It can't. It's based on chaos.
But, I think that's kind of, there is no, there's no sense of order. I think, we wanted to talk about Occupy Portland, and I don't want to forget about Occupy Portland because, there's a lot of this argument about Occupy Wall Street, Occupy blah, 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 wherever city you're in. I hope you have one in your city. If not, start one. That there's no main topic. Well, that's the point.
No main demand, right?
No main demand. I mean, they did put out a list of demands.
Some suggestion demands, right.
But I think the thing is, like, everything is a mess. There's not one system that's working well for the people.
Well, and actually, it's funny because I can associate this back to marijuana in the same way, but I'm going to use the marijuana example as the problem. With medicine, our society believes that we should do like these single compound medicines, like that we should target this very specific thing and it will solve everything. And the reality is that doesn't work, but that's also how we handle our politics. We think if we just target this one little area that it'll fix and it's never going to happen that way. It is a systemic problem. It's something that we have to look at the whole picture in order to solve these problems and how they're all related to each other. I mean, when I'm watching the Occupy Portland thing, I see our argument for marijuana reform right in the midst of it. It's the same argument. And the Tea Party argument is there as well. It's
freedom.
everything.
We want freedom.
Right.
I think the problems are complex, but the answers are simple. I really do. I think that we have been trying to just put like layers of an onion, put another layer of something that doesn't smell so good.
Obstruction.
Just keep going and thinking that sooner or later we're going to land on the right, little square that's going to fix all the problems. And there's no panacea. And I think the more complicated we make it, the harder it is to resolving the problems because there's complication, there's a loophole. There always is. And so if, I think
the Occupy Portland has the right message because of the whole consensus thing. And I don't pretend to understand all of the different processes that are built in there, but the general idea is to get a consensus, an overall agreement among the masses of how to proceed. And I think that when we're looking at our problems, we don't do that. And we need to. You see the dissatisfaction because there is no consensus that this is how it's working. And in changing from this idea that somebody can tell you how to fix it, that's what I was going to say about the obstructionist. All of our laws are meant to obstruct you from doing what you would naturally do in order to force you into a pigeonhole that society has decided is the right way for you to live.
But another obstruction is our own egos. I find that to be kind of true within, even we're seeing it in the Occupy Portland too. It's in the cannabis community for sure. But we're seeing that also, like somebody wants to be the leader or somebody wants to take it this way. And on Sunday when the march was, there were different people who had different ideas about where things should be. And, that doesn't matter. Who the leader is doesn't matter. We're all leaders. Everyone together is a big voice, a big visual aid for certain people sitting in a White House to pay attention. And I think that's it isn't singular. It just isn't. It's too big. It's beyond that.
I'm a firm believer in personal responsibility being the thing that's lacking in our society. When you said that the answers are simple, I think that is the answer. The solution is personal responsibility on all levels. From the individual all the way up to our White House. And I think that. What you were just saying, you reminded me of something and I'm spacing it off now, but personal responsibility being that we have to take accountability for the problems that go wrong and not look for somebody who has the answers to follow, but to instead make our own individual decisions of how we feel it is right to proceed and look for support and consensus among the masses to do that. You know what I mean? Everybody thinks they've got the right answer or the solution and they want everybody to get behind them and follow, and that kind of brings the ego in.
Well, and I think consensus to some people means you agree with me. That means you like me. and there's lots of people that I may agree with, but I don't like. And there are lots of people that I don't like. Or how? What's it?
Cliche.
Oh, there'll be more. Stay tuned.
No, so with Occupy Portland, I've been very impressed, though. I've gone. Well, we went to the march. First off, I was amazed at the turnout. I mean, when we did our Global Cannabis March last year, I think we had, a few hundred people. I don't know exactly how many, but a few hundred people. But it was far short of the 1,000 minimum that we were hoping to see show up marching, with us. And then we watched the anti-immigration reform parade the same day that kind of packed the streets and was impressive. We blew both of them away by far with this Occupy Portland march. I mean, it was like 8 blocks long. Streets were packed, and I did not expect to see such a turnout. I was very impressed, and people of all colors, all stripes, all
ages,
levels, all everything.
They're uniting under what they have in common, and that's being the 99%, and everybody is the 99%.
Exactly.
And we're about to go to a break, so we'll talk more about this when we get back.
You're listening to A Different View.
Walking on the moon. You're right, yeah. Said I'm walking back from your house, walking on the moon. Oh, I'm walking back from your house, walking on the moon. I said my feet, they hardly touch the ground, walking on the moon. My feet don't hardly make no sound. Walking on the moon. I say some may say I wish you my
NORML stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate impaired by cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks may be far less than those posed by legal drugs.
With your caress, sweet lotus blossom, lotus blossom. Help me in my distress, sweet lotus blossom, please do.
I have an O.
Now you alone can bring my lover back.
Hi, and we're back with A Different View. Sarah Frank, Jennifer Alexander, and I'm Iva Cunningham. We're on live.normal.org talking about Occupy Portland. We were talking about how, people are looking for a singular issue to grasp on, but then at the same time they're kicking out different issues because that one doesn't coincide with this issue or that issue. And that's incredibly frustrating because, within that 99%, there are lots of issues.
99% of the issues.
and to say that your issue is far more important than my issue, well, I can tell you that prohibition and the current system of affairs in this country, are absolutely hand in hand.
Right.
We have more people locked up in our prisons than any other country. The ones we wag our finger out and accuse them of human abuses or human help me out, ladies. Rights, thank
Civil
you.
rights, yeah.
Gotta lead us over.
It's a bad night. You should not do shish kebab. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, so as we were going through the 2010 election last
Mhm.
year, Prop 19 was on the ballot in California, and the dispensary measure 74 was on the ballot here in Oregon, and we saw some of the strangest opposition. You know, people that you would expect to be standing by your side, fighting these fights with you, saying, "Well, wait a minute, you missed this issue that's really important to me, and therefore I won't support you."
Yeah.
And in some ways, you can kind of understand it. You know, especially on some of the big issues, like, for instance, you know, only legalizing 1 ounce, and so then above that, you have to look at that and say, okay, well, how is this really going to impact? And I get that, but on the other hand, there are bigger issues that we're facing here,
And they're
civil
all-
rights and freedom being them, and we have to look at that for a minute, and not just the one area of our freedom that we personally
They're
find our
all
value in.
interconnected. It's a giant web of
Right.
issues, and if
Right.
you start talking about this,
And we
issue,
find that
it's
the
gonna
people
correlate back to that issue.
Well,
are
I-
only too willing to give away other people's rights.
Well, you know, and it was funny because, like, Russ had a sign that says, "We're not against capitalism, but we do need some regulation." I can't exactly remember it. He had a lot of words on that sign. But and this guy says, "Oh, I disagree with you. I'm against capitalism," and I'm like, "Well, carry a sign."
Well,
To bring
and
out a
here's
sign.
the
If
one
you're
area
against
of
it, tell me
capitalism
why.
that's so good. It's what Russ says, the privatized profits and socialized risk. You know, it's the people that is the problem. It's not capitalism. It's that aspect, and you want to make sure that when you figure out what it is that you're fighting against, that you stay focused,
Right.
because none of the other stuff matters if this is the issue that you're fighting for.
Right.
And that's where we all get distracted, and we're like,
Well-
oh, well, you didn't like my shoes, so I'm not coming to your rally.
I
well,
think
what does
we
that
get
have
distracted
to do with
more by the
anything?
method and not the end result. I think we're all fighting for the same end result: more personal freedom, less government overreach, less people in jail, less lives ruined,
we gotta
better
stop
stability.
looking at the problem.
And and the path to get there, because none of us have the right. None of us are going to hit it out of the ballpark.
We just got to go forward.
Right.
You know,
take a step. See
no
how
matter
the water
where we're
is, take
going,
another
we might
step.
not know where we're going to end up, but we at least got to start walking.
Start walking.
You know, and stop looking at the problem. Stop looking at the issues. We need to start looking at the solution and how to fix the problems, and because that's where we're getting caught up. You know.
And I think that our whole country has to. I was going to say this probably isn't the best way to say it, but grow some balls. I mean, we don't fight for our rights anymore.
No,
we'll lay down and
Apathy
just hand
is
them
frustrating
over.
as all
It is.
hell.
It's horrible, and we have to recognize that these are our rights, and rights are never given to demand them.
Right.
And you have to continue to
Exactly.
demand them if you want to remain free.
And they're not going to tell you what your rights are.
No,
No.
nobody's going to. Yeah. So these are the things that we have to remember that we have to fight for every day of our lives. You never just say, "Oh, well, it's okay to give up my freedom to say my mind or to
the
practice what I
apathy-
believe." Or
You give up your gun rights because medical marijuana patients can't have them. You know, that's our right to have that. You know,
Right.
You can get alcohol, you can get OxyContin, you can get all sorts of drugs, methadone, and still own a gun.
Right.
And be
So-
scared
so-
of the pot smokers.
They might think about the decision before they pull the trigger.
they might sit down and share one before,
Hey,
and then they'll change their mind. Forget where they left the
let's smoke
gun.
this and let's think about it.
No.
But I think that we get in our own way because we're also bogged down by this way is the right way, and I don't really care. I just think we have a lot more.
We've got to
can do and
quit
move
defining
forward.
everything with a right way and a wrong way. There is no right way and a wrong way.
You're not going to
It's-
get 100% consensus. Period. End of story. Stop trying.
Yeah, it's respect and rights.
And moving forward.
So we will see you guys all next week here on live.normal.org at 8 p.m. Thanks for being with us on A Different View. And thank you, Sarah and Iva. And
Thank you.
Have a great night. If you guys get a chance, do check out Ken Burns' Prohibition. You should be able to download that on OPB.
.org, yeah.
.org. Again, it's Ken Burns' Prohibition. There's 3 hour-long series. They're amazing. And if you're not ticked off about Prohibition or the
Watch
drug
them.
war,
You will be.
You will be. And if there's an Occupy whatever city you're in, please go out and support those people, either on the internet, pass their message along, write the White House, let the people in our government that we've elected hold their feet accountable, or hold their feet to the fire, make them accountable.
there's a website, Occupy Occupy Together.
Feet accountable.
Cliche. Okay, occupytogether.org if you want to look to see if there's an Occupy event in your area. Get involved for sure. There's a revolution coming, and it's starting with the people.
It's already started.
Apparently, we should keep talking.
We're done. Yes, that's what we're trying to tell you. Yes.
We told you that.
Good night. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you next week at 8 o'clock Pacific.
Thanks, guys.
A normal.
When I get low, oh, I get high.
Coming up next on The Normal.